Hello, this is Eldrick, the Guardian Tank, here with a tutorial video on how to start your own tank. In this video, we're going to go and look at the racials. If you want to start a tank now, I always say use the faction that you like the most, will have fun on, your friends are playing on. But if you just want to look at straight benefits to a tank, here are the racials. We're going to start with the Alliance racials. Here we have a human warrior that I made, and we're going to take a quick look at those abilities that you get as playing a human. First thing I'm going to do is switch out this auto attack because I was never a fan of just having attack down there. Auto attack mimics the weapon you have, which I think looks cool. Anyway, going on, you got every man for himself, which is basically a snare break. It's pretty useful. A lot of times you're, held up, stunned, or whatever. You can break out. There's a demonstration of using it. So, not a bad ability. You have Human Spirit, which increases your spirit, which is absolutely useless. Now, sword specialization and mace specialization are pretty good. A lot of times you see tanking weapons being sword, so not a bad racial. Increases your expertise and diplomacy, a quality of life thing that's pretty good if you want it. Moving on, we have the dwarves. In the midst of a battle, first the stone form gives you a 10% reduction to all damage, magic, and physical for 8 seconds. Very handy. Then they have the mace specialization and gun specialization, which is kind of sort of nice, but won't help you a lot. They also have a frost resistance, could come in handy, but it's a situational ability at best. Moving on, I made myself a druid here, a night elf female, and uses mana. Now, the thing about the druid, if you make them, is they get locked out a lot depending on the form they take. Now, I'm going to show you bear form here, which basically increases your armor and your stamina up to that of a level of a plate tank, and gives you the bear abilities such as Enrage, Maul, Demoralizing, Roar. You can't use your other spells when you're in bear form. You're kind of locked in, so you're a pseudo-warrior-esque when you're doing it. Now, you do have magical abilities, but you can't use them. So I'm going to go ahead and kill this tiger, strictly on magic abilities. Let's take a look at those racials. Now, the Night Elf has Shadow Meld, which is cool. It's basically similar to a Rogue's Vanish. Now, quickness is incredibly important. It is the best tanking racial you can get. A 2% flat reduction. And elusiveness is also pretty cool, but that quickness is quite often considered the best tanking racial you can have. As you gain levels, it becomes better and better. Now, moving on to the gnome. Made myself a little gnome warrior here. That's that, and DKs are pretty much all you can be as a gnome if you want to tank. Expansive Mind does nothing for you. Short Blades is okay, can help you out much like the human racial can. Engineers can make headpieces as a tank pretty good. Escape Artist, very similar again to what the humans get. So, again, a solid pick, but a little bit weaker than a warrior. But if you want to be a puntable race, it's great. Moving on to the most attractive model in the game, we got the Drawn Eye female here. Now, they're considered to have about the third best. Now, this is Gift in the Room. Gives you 20% of your health over 15 seconds. It's a health cooldown. Not quite as strong mathematically as a dwarf, as a flat damage reduction, and definitely not as good as the Night Elf as a free 2% to miss, but still a pretty good racial, and their hit is good for threat. You get 1% hit increase. Now, when you start a Worgen, you cannot see their racial, so I'm going to show you my Worgen here. It's a Worgen warrior, currently called Adler, but I've been known to change my character's names quite a bit. So we're going to take a quick look at what they have to offer. Flare, pretty useful if you want to be a skinner, but not great. Dark Flate is a good movement ability. I actually use it a lot when kiting. Not bad. Increases your movement speed by 40% for a short duration. Aberration, again, good. It's one of those situational increases to magic resistance. Now, this one increases your crit chance by 1. It is okay. And then you have 2 forms. This is awesome. If you get bored waiting around for your raid to get going, it gives you something to do. There you go. And they have awesome roar mechanics. Alright, moving on to the Horde. Now, the Horde is generally thought to have weaker tanking racials in the Alliance, but we'll take a look at this Blood Flurry. Increases your attack power by a certain amount. It's okay for threat and help, and reducing your stun effects with hardiness by 50% is also good, but then again, not game-changing. They have Command, which helps you with pets, which is not useful as a tank at all. And that's a crazy dance. Orc females, wow. Moving on to the Troll. Now, the Trolls are fairly similar to the Orcs here. Both specialization won't help you. Berserking is basically a haste increase It could be okay for threat, but not really that necessary. Regeneration is elusively bad. You won't notice it, and it won't be really a factor. Throwing also doesn't help because most of your ranged weapon slots are filled with guns. And the Voodoo Shuffle is pretty good, but it helps you get out of situations, but won't be a huge factor. Now, moving on, I made a Blood Elf Paladin like I do. Very strong racials for the Horde here. An Arcane Turret. It's a great silence. It has a slight cast time, but is incredibly good. Silences are very great as a tank. Other than that, there's not a whole lot going on there, but it's worth it for Arcane Turret. Now, moving on to the Goblins. Fun little puntable race. You got Rocket Jump and Rocket Barrage. Now, these share a cooldown, but I'll show you both of them. Rocket Jump is very similar to Heroic Jump. You can't control it, but it can move you quickly, good for kiting. Then they have a bunch of quality life ones for chemistry, for, discounts and all that, which is great, but not huge. It's kind of like diplomacy. It's a quality of life thing, but not bad racials. And here you can get a quick look at Rocket Barrage. A little extra DPS for you there. Not incredibly strong, but good. And this one's my Turn War, which you'll be seeing in later videos. As far as leveling now, I just use the very, very famous War Stomp. Has a slight cast time, but stuns up to 5 targets around you. Very good on trash. The Endurance, unfortunately, is a shadow of what it once was. A 5% increase to your base health, not great. And then they have their quality life ones, such as Nature Resistance and Cultivation. They're all good, but unfortunately, their Endurance one has been kind of gutted, so it isn't quite as strong as I would like to see it. Here we're going to move over to the Forsaken War I made. Run through these real fast. The first one is the Will of the Forsaken. Pretty good ability. It removes all fears, charms, and sleep effects, and makes you immune for about, a good 5 seconds to those. So pretty good. And Cannibalize, which is similar to the Gift of the Naru, but you have to be consuming a corpse. It has to either be undead or humanoid, so keep that in mind. Well, alright, that was a quick look at all the racials. Now, if I had to sum everything up for you again, the Alliance, it has a little bit stronger racials when it comes to tanking. The Horde ones tend to be a little more focused on damage. Now, with that said, you should pick the faction you're going to have fun with, but if you're looking at straight tanking racials and you're going to be an Alliance tank, then you want to go Night Elf. That 2% miss is great. Then you're going to look at Dwarf. A clickable cooldown, damage reduction to all damage for 10% is huge. And then the Draw Knight are also not bad. With the Gift in the Naru. Yeah, health cooldowns are pretty good. Now going over to the Horde side, there's really only 2 options you have. The first being a Blood Elf, because Arcane Turn is great. Limiting caster damage, therefore magic damage, can be really, really powerful. And it does work on bosses. Then moving on to the turn. Granted, the health increase isn't huge with Endurance, but it does help. And War Stomp is a great ability if you're on trash or you need to interrupt smaller mobs. So there is a quick look at the tanking racials you can pick from in World of Warcraft. Until next time, I'm Eldrick, the Guardian Tank, and pick your tank wisely. Oh yeah, and Blood Elf Paladins, they like to kill kittens. Ugh, senseless.